I came to California in the early 60s, and I finished college and then went to graduate school and went in the Army and got out, and I got a job at a little agency. And the first group, I was an agent, the first group that I discovered were the Standells with a song called Dirty Water. And then I represented the Grassroots and Creedence Clearwater and the Guess Who. And then in the late 60s, I brought Elton John to America for his first US tour, and then Pink Floyd. And then I started my own little agency in 1970. We represented Journey and Styx and REO Speedwagon and Marvin Gaye and Van Morrison and Joan Armatrading and Boss Skaggs, and did the Crosby Nash acoustic tour and ELO, and just about anybody that was anybody in rock and roll. So unlike the beginning of rock and roll when people got involved with music because they loved it, it now became business. And it was something that sort of turned me off to the music business until I heard about a little scene that was happening over at a pressing plant in Old Hollywood called McCullough Records. At that little pressing plant were Ice-T, MC Hammer, the Timex Social Club, the World Class Wrecking Crew with our good friends Dr. Dre and DJ Yella, CIA with Ice Cube and Sir Jinx, JJ Fad, Rodney O and Joe Cooley, Bobby Jimmy and the Critters. So all these people were pressing at McCullough. And I represented then Egyptian Lover and the LA Dream Team, who were also recording there, and the World Class Wrecking Crew, which was Alonzo Williams' group on Crew Cut Records. Actually, the Wrecking Crew were sort of the Temptations of rap music. And they had a great show, and they wore makeup and had these cool costumes. But he kept telling me about this guy that wanted to meet me named Eric Wright. And I put it off, and finally Alonzo said to me, you know, you got to meet this guy. And he offered me $750 to meet you. And he said I could use the money. I agreed to meet him at McCullough, which was the pressing plant, and he pulled up with his friend MC Ren, and he got out of his Suzuki Samurai, which was all tricked out, and he reached down in his sock and he paid Alonzo the $750 off this roll of $100 bills that he had. And I said to him, do you have anything for me to hear? And in the music business, which is basically a bullshit business, guys will tell you about all these things that they got. They got this guy and this group and this girl and this writer, and you know, it's all about what they got. And here's a guy that met me that paid $750 to meet me, that when I asked him if he had some music for me to play, all he said was yes. And I think that's the way he lived his life, was that he was always willing to let his accomplishments speak for themselves. So he played me Boys in the Hood, and we made a deal right on the spot. The next day I called a meeting of my clients at an old mob restaurant called Martoni's, which is no longer there. And I told everybody that I represented that I was going into business with Eric Wright, who of course is her daddy, Eazy-E, and we started Ruthless Records that day, March 3rd of 1987. I grew up in Cleveland on the same block that Bone Thugs and Harmony grew up in, so I grew up with gangsters. You know, I knew guys that carried guns when they were 11 years old. So to me, it wasn't the fact of getting involved with a gangster, because Eazy was very businesslike and very together. It was more being able to relate to the music that he was playing me. And the minute he played it, I knew that it was important music, so my job became how to market that music and get it to the rest of the world. First of all, you can't put Ice Cube in the same class with Dr. Dre. Ice Cube was a guy that was always not contented with anything that happened. He used to complain to me that Alonzo was stealing from him, and then he complained to Brian Turner that Jerry Heller and Eazy-E were stealing from him. He was always, that's the kind of guy that he is. Dr. Dre, you're talking about, is something totally different. Here's a guy that's the single most talented guy of the entire rap era. I mean, for 22 years, Dr. Dre has been at the very top of his game. He not only produced the Wrecking Crew music, Juice and Surgery and Turn Out the Lights, but he produced and wrote the music for every song that ever came out on Ruthless Records, N.W.A, the DOC. I mean, everybody. Here's a guy that went on from there to do the Chronic and Eminem and Game and 50 Cent. I mean, here's an incredibly talented guy, and was a very, very close friend of Ice Cube, of Eazy-E's. Ice Cube was younger, and he was never real close with the other guys in the group. And it was totally different. When Ice Cube left, basically, the guys sat down, the other guys in N.W.A, and sort of went along with it. When Dre left, that was a devastating thing to both Eric and myself, Eric personally and to me professionally, because he was not only the biggest asset of Ruthless, but the single most talented guy of the entire rap era, so it was devastating. But when he wrote Dre Day, I sort of laughed at that. I thought it had a sense of humor, and I thought it was entertaining. It was entertainment. I never, took it personally. Eric took it more personally because he was lifetime friends with Dre. They grew up together and they had been friends for a long time. I never took it personally. To me, it was just, as the DOC would say, just business. When Ice Cube wrote No Vaseline, and when he wrote Black Korea, those were despicable, horrible songs. I mean, I resented that song as a Jewish man and as a man. And I thought, well, this is probably the most anti-Semitic song that's ever been written, although I don't feel that Ice Cube is anti-Semitic. I just think he's pro-Ice Cube. I think he'll do anything to sell records or theater tickets or whatever it takes.